differences between thoughts and objects are only the manifestation of space and time. The thought of the object is instant, and the time of duration of the object itself depends on the circumstances of its durability in the physical world until it disintegrates due to entropy or some novel idea changes it. The lasting time of each phenomenon is different according to the dimensions. In the element of air, it is momentary in the form of an idea or a thought, and in the element of earth, it is relatively permanent to the degree physical conditions allow. All the differences in the manifestation of phenomena are only differences variant upon time and dimension. Dimensions are therefore associated with time. They define it. The mind is connected with the body, and it was designed to function in linear time in which the body exists as well. The mind cannot cognize timelessness for the same reason it cannot see the higher dimensions. Consequently, the mind cannot exceed time and grasp the very nature of time until it exceeds and transcends itself. In other words, until it opens itself up to the higher mind and consciousness of the soul. Overall existence permeates all dimensions. Every being in nature must go through the full spectrum of dimensions, and they do so all the time. The fact that we can observe a certain phenomenon or an object simply means that we have located in the three-dimensional space-time one detail from the full range of transformation. A stone mineral will over time become a plant, and one day through the human it will become a thought. Although from the viewpoint of the physical body and its logic, it appears this is a continuous process following a linear law of causality that gradually develops over time, constructing the horizon of the manifested world. The reality, however, is that all the phenomena of nature is simultaneous, and time as such is a relative concept. This process instantly contracts manifestation through the presence of a conscious subject. When a human sees a stone, the stone has already turned into a thought in them. It happens continually both in and through the human. The transformation of the divine consciousness across all the dimensions of nature, designing all the possibilities of consciousness in all the dimensions, the complete transformation of the experience of existence across all the dimensions and devising their purpose is set in one place only, the human body. Legends say that the human was made at the very end of the whole creation as the most perfect work of their creator and in his image and likeness. The human being is a machine that unites the functioning of all the dimensions of nature. In the highest dimension, the informational direction and shaping of energy happens, which later manifests in the lower dimensions in the form of some physical emanation or phenomenon. Information thought of some phenomenon unites with the shape of the same phenomenon in the human. This is the mechanism by which designing the phenomenon takes place in the human. The process of creation or the manifestation of consciousness as existence itself goes from ether or the universal quantum field to what we perceive as gross matter or the physical three-dimensional reality. In other words, the divine absolute, which is everything that is manifests or actualizes itself in all the possibilities of existence. Everything that is always manifests itself as everything that can be, starting from all the frequencies of the quantum field across all the shapes in nature, from the tiniest to the biggest, and to all the possible phenomena that could ever be. For example, the drama of life that animals experience, but people also to a greater degree with the events people experience through their work and destiny. The finest meaning of phenomena becomes known. The awareness of the sense of these events then goes back to the divine absolute via the human soul as one aspect of the divine awareness of itself. The divine absolute manifests itself from the most subtle to the grossest phenomena, and this manifestation is in its awareness of itself. Nothing can exist without the awareness of existence. The shaping of existence without the purpose of existence is impossible, and neither could there be phenomena without the purpose of phenomena, and the purpose in question has always been the awareness of existence and the awareness of phenomena. The awareness of the purpose of existence is solved through life and human destiny through karma. To use a vivid depiction here, the divine absolute appears to have put a blank canvas in front of itself, onto which it would be able to project everything it can come up with, its whole imagination. This blank canvas is the physical world. It is the background, the higher universe. It is in the background. It is the background, the higher and finer dimensions get projected on ether and the divine consciousness included. This blank canvas then acts as the mirror that reflects all aspects of the divine absolute, all its possibilities. The physical universe is nothing but a mirror of divine consciousness itself. The same can be described using frequencies as an example. The divine particle gradually slows down its vibrations, its motion, and by doing so, all of its manifestations become grosser and slower until the point they become slow enough and gross enough for consciousness to experience its existence as a three-dimensional physical phenomena in space and time. Space, or better yet, the state between the physical world and the original state of the divine particle as the quantum field, ether or akasha, is filled with the nuances of frequencies of the varying densities of phenomena, i.e. speed. These nuances make up the so-called higher worlds, or the dimensions of nature, the astral and the mental world, and the archetypal space, hyperspace. When the great speeds and fluidity of higher dimensions are the media, consciousness finds it very difficult to become solid in a way necessary to attain awareness of itself in an ultimate way. In the mind of a separate individual, such as the human, it is unable to distinguish between the myriad of details of existence of itself. The conditions of an inert physical body in space and time in the element of Earth are ideal for this sort of experience, in which consciousness will leave the momentariness and unity of everything behind and enter linear time limited by space to know all its contents and possibilities as objects. In the element of Earth, in the physical world, the contents of consciousness and ideas become solid objects that can be known for all their aspects, and with all the possibilities, they become objects one can work with. The whole of existence is based on perception. In the entire universe, nothing else happens but the act of the divine absolute knowing itself. Everything that is manifests as everything that could be. This manifestation is awareness of existence as the awareness of itself. Once the awareness of existence becomes so complete, having long and hard enough time gone through all the possible experiences of existence and realizing that it is no different from consciousness itself, then divine awareness of itself comes into the picture, and the process of the manifestation of the divine absolute is finalized. The state of completeness of the meaning of existence, transformed into consciousness of itself, of the divine absolute, happens in the human only. It has always been called enlightenment, or the highest God knowledge. Completeness of the manifestation of the divine consciousness happens when the human becomes aware of the true nature of existence here and now, of the fact that time is an eternal present. Being conscious of the fact that there is no time means being conscious that existence itself is consciousness, and that consciousness itself is existence. To think there is no time, or that time is the eternal present, that only the present exists, means that consciousness is existence, and that consciousness is the divine consciousness itself, that consciousness and existence are not different at all. They are the same. The eternal present is this existence of ours, its ultimate reach. The most supreme reality gets expressed as time also. The unity of consciousness and existence happens as samadhi in mediation, as sahaja samadhi outside the meditative focus, as nirvikalpa samadhi in the everyday life of a completely awakened human who then sees every physical phenomenon clearly as a timeless presence and an embodiment of consciousness of the divine absolute. From the previous example, this means that the stone we are holding in our hand we now see as materialized consciousness, something we are able to do once we stop time and begin residing in the present only, whereas time as such can be stopped only by modifications of the mind, by transcending the mind, by appeasing the thoughts that project time. Once the mind stops, time stops too, and the reality of existence as the eternal present unravels before us as the unity of consciousness and existence. The effect we're able to have on the stone then is far greater than the effect on existence as such, for only then can we begin to truly affect existence because we have entered its source. Our consciousness is one with existence, enabling us to impact matter consciously. This functioning manifests in the form of powers or sati. Consciousness of the divine absolute returns to itself and is able to end its manifestation only in the human who has returned to themselves, to their essence, their soul, who no longer manifests time with their thoughts, and who has known existence for what it is, as pure consciousness, and existence itself as the presence of the divine absolute here and now. They no longer see anything as being different from themselves, from their essence. Therefore, divine consciousness outside the human has always been what it is. There's nothing else for it to be, and it simply recognizes itself in the human because only then has it experienced the loss of itself, the incidence of projecting itself into something else, into an existence that appeared severed from consciousness. The principle of circling of consciousness from the divine to human and back. Divine consciousness keeps circling from itself to the human with their state of ego and mind as the two forms of biggest alienation of the divine consciousness, away from itself and then back again to itself, to the divine absolute that is everything it undertakes on its path to itself, because nothing at all is possible outside of it, nor is it different from it in any way. This explains why perception is possible in the first place. Perception as such is when one acknowledges or harmonizes with oneself. When consciousness sets off from the divine, it manifests itself as objective existence, the cosmos, and life. When it is on its way toward the divine, consciousness experiences itself as the meaning of existence, as the awareness of itself in the human as a conscious subject of objective existence, and finally unites with the divine source through the human soul as self-knowledge. This entire circling is nothing but the imagination in action of the divine consciousness. It happens in a momentary fashion every moment of every day. We have to emphasize this principle, which is the foundation of everything we describe here and is the topic of this book. The principle that in our view appears like circling is simply the absolute presence. Timeless presence of the divine consciousness is much like the circling of consciousness. Awareness of itself projects itself from the divine absolute in the form of manifested nature, which develops all the possibilities of existence. With this accumulated experience, it returns to the divine absolute, and in doing so, actualizes the awareness of itself. The entire existence, or the cosmos, is in reality the divine absolute making an effort to become aware of itself. Therefore, its highest awareness of itself is no different from the very existence here and now. It is no different from our awareness of ourselves either. When the human attains the level of perfection of self-consciousness, then they, as it is often said, come to know God, although it would be more accurate to say that then God knows itself, or even more accurately, it actualizes itself to the fullest while the human, as its instrument of God knowledge, disappears. However, it is clear that neither consciousness nor God requires awareness. The only thing that happens is that human unconsciousness vanishes. This disappearance is the purpose of human existence. The human disappearance in the divine consciousness is their true origin. In the entire cosmos, there is no greater bliss than that. The divine absolute itself experiences the highest ecstasy possible when, from the point of the most distant self oblivion and ostensible alienation in the form of a human confined to the illusion of the body and egoic mind, it liberates itself from all the illusions, followed by an untold number of karmic dramas and temptations to find the meaning of existence and to understand everything for what it is, and as the outcome, originally had this in mind, then it is said, maybe, well, now it goes back to itself. It appears that the Divine Absolute originally had this in mind when it said about getting itself involved in the whole affair, whereas the overall manifested itself exists only to make this bliss of self knowledge take place in the human. The circling of the divine consciousness does not complete itself in some epic way when our judgment day comes. It always happens in the measure of a small dose upon realizing something truly important in our lives when we experience this knowledge together with the feeling of love toward existence itself, when we do not distinguish the energy of love from life itself, when we become aware of it and begin to see it in everything surrounding us, in some tiny plant or an animal roaming about, when we help some person feel better, learn something valuable, and experience goodness, or when somebody smiles in honest bliss and cognition. This principle of the circling of the divine consciousness can also be seen as pulsating, which is a principle many processes in nature go through, from the electromagnetic frequencies of the subatomic particles and the motion of the overall energy through the polarities up to the gigantic pulsars and quasars in the cosmos, and ultimately to our breathing and heart beating as well. This practically demonstrates how very close we are to those principles of the divine consciousness that enables the entire cosmos into existence. The identical principle generates everything to pulsate and vibrate, from quasars to our hearts functioning and our breathing too. It is all the identical vibration, the same movement of divine consciousness on its way back to itself. Since space and time are illusory in reality, the higher score, the divine result, does not happen in the beginning of the world, nor will be resolved when the end of the world comes. It is reflected in the tiniest things, always as the source and joy of life and knowledge. Okay, thanks for listening. See you later.